The narrative begins by presenting Jim Peters, a professor at Miskatonic University, who receives a formal invitation to meet with Dr. Julia Goldstein, a highly qualified researcher working at Pickman Corporation. This corporation is known for directing its studies toward phenomena considered impossible or beyond the conventional reach of humanity, dedicating itself, for example, to the investigation of creatures that possibly inhabit the abyssal regions of the ocean, areas still unexplored due to human technological and biological limitations. During the meeting, Dr. Julia informs Jim that Pickman Corporation has identified suggestive evidence of the existence of life in Antarctica, specifically at an astonishing depth of 37,000 feet, a point never reached by any human being. Promising signals were captured from the ocean depths, indicating the possible presence of unknown and intriguing organisms. To reinforce her explanation, Dr. Julia presents images captured in real time by her team, recorded in this extreme and inhospitable environment. Mr. Pickman, founder of the company, expresses direct interest in integrating Jim into the main research team. The reason for this invitation is linked to the past of his father, Walton Peters, who had previously collaborated with the corporation, but lost his life in a tragic expedition in the ocean depths, with his body never recovered. Initially showing disinterest, Jim changes his posture upon analyzing the recordings and discoveries, beginning to demonstrate growing curiosity about the opportunity to participate in the mission. Subsequently, Dr. Julia requests his presence at a meeting the following day to formalize his integration into the expedition team. The next day, at the headquarters of Pickman Corporation, Dr. Julia introduces the other members of the project. Among them is Hank O'Connell, the chief engineer responsible for coordinating technical aspects and leading the construction of a submarine capable of withstanding the crushing pressure of 37,000 feet of depth. Christine Harris is also introduced, a marine biologist with vast knowledge of ocean ecosystems, as well as Gordon Atkins, responsible for ensuring the full operation of all systems and equipment under extreme conditions. Finally, Joe is introduced as the communications specialist, responsible for maintaining continuous contact between the submerged team and the operations base. With such a well-structured team, demonstrating technical and scientific preparedness, everyone was confident and ready to face the challenges of the expedition toward the hidden mysteries of the deep ocean. Subsequently, Dr. Julia asks Hank to present a detailed report on the progress of the submarine construction. With evident pride, Hank explains that the submarine, named Providence 3, was developed with lightweight and extremely resistant syntactic foam, allowing it to withstand the colossal pressure of the depths, even with an approximate weight of 250 tons. In real applications, this material is often used as structural support and buoyancy assistance in submersible vessels, reducing the overall load. Dr. Julia reinforces the team's confidence by stating that Providence 3 has already undergone rigorous testing with highly satisfactory and safe results. Christine then questions the possibility of not finding anything relevant during the mission. At that moment, Mr. Pickman appears, sharing his trajectory and revealing his lifelong dedication to understanding marine mysteries, expressing with conviction his belief in the existence of hidden creatures in the depths. His goal in founding the company has always been to uncover what remains concealed beneath the waters. Before the descent, the team would undergo an intensive 2-month period of rigorous training to ensure complete physical, technical, and psychological preparation. Those who felt incapable could withdraw freely, but no one abandoned the mission, motivated by scientific curiosity and fascination with the unknown. After the meeting, the group rested and strengthened bonds through informal conversations, creating an environment of mutual trust. 2 months passed quickly, marking the completion of the training of Jim, Christine, Gordon, Joe, and Hank. Prepared, they followed Dr. Julia's instructions to begin the journey toward the submarine, joining Pickman himself on the exploration mission, while the team on land would monitor all data and maintain constant communication. Upon arriving at the submarine, each member immediately assumed their functions as trained, with Gordon thoroughly checking all operational systems. The Providence 3 was fully under control after numerous meticulous checks, including radar, oxygen supply, depth gauges, compasses, and various essential instruments, ensuring total operational safety. Meanwhile, Joe ensured stable communication with the base. Minutes later, Christine prepares to conduct scientific analyses on the ocean floor, and Jim assumes responsibility for operating a mini-submarine intended for collecting biological samples, directly contributing to the detailed investigation of that unknown and potentially revolutionary environment for modern science. Hank and Pickman, taking on the role of attentive and experienced supervisors, ensured that each step proceeded strictly according to the established plan, maintaining constant vigilance over systems and operational protocols, ensuring that nothing went out of control. They reinforced that there was no reason for concern, as long as the scrapper fan remained functioning properly and the depth meters continued recording accurate and reliable data. After confirming that all preparations had been executed correctly and without any apparent anomaly, the team immediately began the controlled descent toward the impressive depth of 37,000 feet, gradually facing the increasing pressure of the ocean. The journey to this point took approximately 1 hour and a half until they finally reached the planned destination, where they encountered a surprising and almost unbelievable sight, an extraordinary discovery resembling the structure of a colossal portal, which seemed to conceal within it deep secrets about the origin and existence of life. The team quickly understood that this revelation had the potential to completely transform human understanding of the deepest and most unexplored regions of the ocean. While monitoring everything from the surface with constant attention, Dr. Julia instructed Gordon to guide the submarine through the portal, with the objective of investigating what existed beyond that enigmatic and mysterious formation. The general perception was one of disbelief in the face of something that seemed beyond current scientific understanding, a kind of unknown opening of the planet Earth itself, suggesting that this place could reveal knowledge never imagined by humanity. The images captured by the front and rear cameras were clear and stable, allowing detailed observation of the surrounding environment. At first, before the crossing, all systems and signals indicated normal functioning, with total stability in the instruments. However, at the exact moment they crossed the portal, several pieces of equipment began to present unexpected failures, generating immediate tension and the beginning of panic among the crew members. Communication with Dr. Julia and the team on land was completely interrupted, resulting in a total loss of contact for an indefinite period. Fortunately, after a few moments, the situation was restored, with systems returning to normal operation and communication successfully re-established. Dr. Julia then informed that, from the surface point of view, the submarine had remained off radar and without communication for almost 3 full hours. This information caused great surprise and confusion in Gordon, Christine, Jim, Joe, and Hank, because for them the interruption had lasted only a few minutes, creating a disturbing temporal discrepancy. At the land base, however, the elapsed time had been significantly longer, indicating a possible temporal distortion associated with the portal. Gordon then requested that Hank immediately check the oxygen levels, and the data revealed a considerable reduction, confirming that they had indeed remained in that environment for a much longer period than they consciously perceived. Shortly afterward, the team identified something on the ocean floor, a gigantic form apparently motionless, resting silently in the dark depths. Everyone's attention turned to that presence, and Christine requested that Dr. Julia and the surface team carefully observe the creature through the transmitted images. Intrigued and determined to better understand the discovery, Dr. Julia immediately ordered Jim to approach using the mini-submarine, with the mission of collecting a tissue sample from the entity for later scientific analysis. At that moment, Pickman intervened with firm words of encouragement, emphasizing that the success of the entire mission depended directly on Jim's ability to obtain that crucial sample. Without hesitation, Jim quickly prepared and boarded the mini-submarine, beginning his descent toward the colossal creature. Christine showed visible concern while observing the operation, aware that any minimal error could result in fatal consequences, since the extreme pressure could instantly crush the human body. The mini-submarine was slowly released from the main vehicle, descending cautiously through the deep and silent waters, where subtle currents made the environment even more unpredictable and isolated. As he approached the creature, Jim could finally observe its gigantic dimension and frightening appearance in detail, while everyone on board closely followed every movement through the cameras installed on the small vessel. The tension increased as the operation progressed, and through the radio, Joe instructed Jim to act quickly, avoiding prolonged exposure to imminent danger. At the moment, Jim began collecting the sample, the creature, until then apparently inert, suddenly reacted, moving abruptly and unexpectedly, causing immediate panic among all team members. Jim became alarmed, as he needed at least one continuous minute to complete the tissue extraction. Without any prior warning, the enormous being launched a violent attack on the mini-submarine, severely damaging its structure and completely interrupting the communication signal with the main team. The situation became critical within seconds, and contact with Jim was abruptly lost. Gordon, faced with the extreme risk, realized that attempting a direct rescue would mean placing the entire crew in imminent danger, since approaching the creature could result in the total destruction of the main submarine. Faced with this threat, the only viable option was to initiate a cautious and strategic ascent, slowly moving away from the monstrous entity, while uncertainty about Jim's fate weighed heavily on everyone on board. However, it was already too late to avoid the imminent disaster, as the main vessel itself was violently struck by the colossal creature, causing a brutal impact that destabilized the entire structure and threw Christine out of the submarine with extreme force. Fortunately, Hank acted quickly and precisely, managing to save her by immediately sealing the external hatch, preventing the crushing water pressure from invading the interior of the vessel and causing an irreversible catastrophic failure. At that exact critical moment, Jim's radio signal was unexpectedly restored, and he communicated that he had successfully collected the tissue sample from the creature, requesting Gordon to open the external hatch to allow his safe return. As soon as everyone was reunited, Gordon ordered Hank to carry out a detailed inspection of the damage suffered by the submarine after the violent attack of the creature. The results revealed critical leaks and severe structural compromises, placing the entire mission at imminent risk. In the midst of the chaotic and unpredictable situation, Pickman suddenly appeared and, in a cold and calculated manner, locked Hank inside a damaged chamber that was leaking, allowing water to slowly invade the compartment until Hank was unable to resist, succumbing to lack of oxygen in a tragic way. Meanwhile, Jim returned successfully after completing his collection mission, but his brief relief soon turned into apprehension upon finding Christine unconscious and without apparent injuries. Without wasting time, Jim immediately began resuscitation procedures, performing mouth-to-mouth breathing and cardiopulmonary resuscitation maneuvers with determination, in the hope of bringing her back to consciousness. After agonizing moments, his efforts finally took effect, and Christine began breathing again, slowly regaining consciousness, still weakened but alive. With Hank's loss, only 5 members remained on the team: Jim, Christine, Gordon, Joe, and Pickman, unaware that the true person responsible for Hank's death had been Pickman himself, who deliberately left him trapped in the flooded chamber. With the tissue sample secured, the team then began the long ascent of approximately 3 hours toward the surface, maintaining maximum caution given the unstable conditions of the vessel. During the ascent, Pickman showed increasing obsession and demanded immediate possession of the sample, intending to take it directly to the laboratory for in-depth study. Without fully understanding the risks involved in keeping that unknown material on board, the team members, except for Gordon, who remained fully focused on piloting, observed the specimen with curiosity and unease. Pickman appeared visibly impatient, eager to analyze the mysterious life form, but Jim advised him to wait until they were safely at the surface. Suddenly, the sample began to move on its own, causing astonishment and fear among everyone, revealing clear signs of unexpected biological activity. The substance appeared alive, reacting in a disturbing manner, as if it possessed some kind of unknown consciousness or instinct. Christine supported Jim's position, emphasizing the need for caution and reinforcing that any study should only be conducted in a controlled environment. Reluctantly, Pickman accepted the decision, and the laboratory chamber was properly sealed and locked to prevent unauthorized access. Meanwhile, in another isolated section of the submarine, Joe secretly contacted Dr. Julia, revealing a hidden plan of betrayal against Pickman. Both conspired to extract part of the sample and sell it for an exorbitant value, fully aware of the lucrative potential of that unique discovery. As a preventive measure, Joe discreetly prepared a hidden weapon in case it became necessary to resort to violence to secure control of the specimen. Meanwhile, Pickman secretly returned to the laboratory alone, completely fascinated by the strange and hypnotic glow emitted by the tissue sample. Approaching slowly, he watched in admiration as the organism seemed to grow and expand before his eyes in an accelerated and unnatural way. Driven by curiosity and increasing obsession, he removed his shirt and, driven by an irrational impulse, touched the substance directly with his bare hands. Then he spread the viscous material over his own body, only to immediately feel a disturbing and indescribable sensation manifesting within him, as if something unknown was beginning to alter his own biological nature in a profound and irreversible way. Gordon, still firmly positioned at the submarine controls and focused on piloting, was suddenly surprised by a brutal attack from Pickman, who no longer displayed coherent human behavior. His screams of intense pain and suffering echoed through the metallic corridors of the vessel, reverberating in a terrifying manner until reaching Jim and Christine, who immediately realized that something terrible had occurred. However, before they could react properly, both had their attention suddenly diverted by an extremely intense and blinding flash emanating from the laboratory chamber, whose doors, previously sealed, had opened again in an inexplicable and unsettling manner. Determined to contain the situation, Christine advanced, intending to close and lock the chamber once again, but recoiled in fear upon coming into contact with the viscous sludge spreading across the control panel near the locking mechanism. At that moment, Pickman appeared before them, moving in a distorted manner, with irregular and completely unnatural gestures, before emitting a loud, disturbing, almost inhuman scream. Without any warning or hesitation, he ran toward the submarine's external hatch and threw himself outside, disappearing into the dark depths. Initially, Jim and Christine considered trying to save him, but were immediately stopped by Joe, who, armed, kept them under constant threat. Joe coldly explained that Pickman had spent years obsessed with discovering unknown submarine life forms, and that his immense fortune no longer held significant value for him, as his mind had been completely consumed by this obsessive fixation. With Pickman out of the picture, Joe saw the perfect opportunity to take possession of the tissue sample for himself, driven by greed and the promise of extraordinary wealth. Without fully understanding the risks involved, he took the specimen with his own hands and stored it in a plastic bag, ignoring the evident danger of direct contact with that unknown substance, which had already corrupted Pickman earlier. Meanwhile, Jim and Christine ran in search of Gordon, only to find him displaying erratic, aggressive, and completely uncontrolled behavior, indicating that he had also been contaminated during his confrontation with Pickman. In a state of irrational fury, Gordon violently attacked the two, forcing Jim to react in self-defense. During the chaotic confrontation, Jim ended up falling from a considerable height, temporarily losing consciousness. Out of control, Gordon began systematically destroying the submarine's essential systems, damaging the radio, the radar, and all communication equipment, eliminating any possibility of contact with Dr. Julia and the surface team. At the moment when the situation seemed completely irreversible, Joe reappeared and without hesitation shot Gordon, ending his life immediately. However, Joe's action revealed a troubling transformation in his behavior, intensified by his excessive ambition, which provoked Christine's fury. Overcome with indignation, she grabbed an axe and advanced toward him with determination. During the intense fight, Joe's weapon was knocked away and slid across the metallic floor, stopping near Jim, who was slowly beginning to regain consciousness. Christine managed to overpower Joe by striking his leg with force, causing a severe injury that temporarily incapacitated him. Realizing the seriousness of the situation, she asked Jim to escape with her, as the main submarine was no longer operational and was on the verge of total structural collapse. The only alternative for survival was to escape using the mini-submarine. Before leaving, however, Jim decided to destroy the tissue sample using a flare and the available weapon, thus eliminating the immediate threat posed by the organism. After successfully destroying the specimen completely, he realized that Joe was still trying to sabotage the escape, driven by his persistent obsession. With time running out and the vessel about to explode due to accumulated critical damage, Jim made an extreme and altruistic decision, choosing to sacrifice himself to stop Joe and ensure Christine's survival. He ordered her to leave immediately without him. Initially reluctant and emotionally shaken, Christine resisted the idea of abandoning him, but faced with Jim's firm insistence, she finally gave in and began her escape in the mini-submarine. Meanwhile, Jim confronted Joe in a final decisive battle, managing to defeat him after an intense struggle. However, to his absolute horror, a grotesque parasite emerged from Joe's body, revealing the true nature of the infection. Accepting his inevitable fate, Jim was then surprised by a vision of the spirit of his deceased father, who appeared before him calmly, expressing pride in his courage and indicating that it was time for them to go together toward the unknown depths. In the final sequence of events, Christine managed to escape successfully using the mini-submarine, later being found adrift on the surface by Dr. Julia and her rescue team. Her physical condition was gradually stabilized while she received intensive medical care. However, despite the apparent recovery, Christine stated that everyone had been killed and that the truth about the events should never be revealed. Shortly afterward, she was struck by a sharp and unbearable pain in her abdominal region, and in a shocking moment, a parasite violently emerged from inside her body. At that instant, Christine recalled the moment she came into contact with the sludge, realizing that she had also been infected since then. Overcome by the parasitic presence, she began to completely lose control of herself, writhing in agony as the transformation progressed irreversibly. The conclusion becomes inevitable and terrifying. The threat had not been contained, and new victims would inevitably be infected, placing all humanity in the face of an imminent, silent, and devastating danger.